Welcome to the best football show. I'm here every day. I'm Brian Baldinger from the NFL at Baldy NFL. You can find this podcast. Just download your free Odyssey app. You can download it, like it, subscribe to it, watch it, tell all of your friends about it. This is simply what I do here. I'm on my third floor office at NFL Films. Been watching a bunch of film here this morning of different players and college and pro, kind of getting ready for the combine season and the college playoff season. I'll be doing the Hula Bowl next week in Orlando, Florida. But I wanted to just talk about a couple of people. Pro Bowl voting came out yesterday. I think some players got snubbed. I think it's, we should give those players some attention. But let me start first. I was in Cleveland on Sunday, Cleveland-Miami game, and I saw Myles Garrett get his 13th and 14th sack, and he earned those sacks. And for the fourth year in a row, Myles Garrett has had 14 plus sacks. Nobody in the history of the NFL has ever done that before. Hats off to Myles. In order to do that, you've got to be reasonably healthy. You've got to have real dominance because anywhere Myles goes, anybody he plays against, they got a game plan for him. He's their best defensive player in Cleveland, has been since he got there. And so he's got to beat game plans. He's got to beat back chips, slides, tight end chips, double teams, triple teams. He's got to beat all that stuff to do that. And I played with Reggie White. I played with Bruce Smith. I played against LT. And we go down the list of great pass rushers in his business. I mean, for Myles to be the only player who's done that is remarkable. Hats off. Hats off to Myles. And when you watch him, I remember the first time I saw Myles Garrett play football. He was at Texas A&M. They were undefeated. They were playing Alabama that day in Tuscaloosa. They were undefeated. It was a big game. It was the biggest college game of the year that year to that point. And Myles Garrett had a high ankle sprain, and it was questionable just how good he could go, if he was going to go, for how long could he last. And I talked to him before the game just briefly in the end zone, and he said he was going to go as hard as he can. And that's kind of what he's done. He's avoided a lot of major injuries. He's ruined a lot of Sundays for a lot of quarterbacks. Anyways, you just watch him. His skill set, he's the first pick in the draft, and sometimes the first pick is worthy of it. Bruce Smith was the first pick, 1984 maybe. He was worthy of it. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. Myles Garrett was worthy of being that first pick and has proven that. The next player I want to get to is Zack Baun, because Zack Baun played 4 years. He came out of Wisconsin. He was drafted by the New Orleans Saints, and he played 4 years in New Orleans. I don't even know if he started a game in New Orleans, maybe a couple at most in 4 years. But he didn't put up a lot of sacks. He didn't put up a lot of numbers. They didn't really know how to play him in New Orleans. They didn't really have an outside linebacker position. They were a four-man defensive front. Sometimes he would rush on the edge in pass rush situations. Sometimes he would be the backup to Demario Davis or Pete Werner or whoever. Philadelphia signed him as a free agent, not really knowing, I don't think, exactly what they knew, except that Vic Fangio coached in New Orleans, was a linebacker coach in New Orleans when they were the Dome Patrol, Ricky Jackson, Pat Swilling, that group, Sam Mills. He knows something about linebackers. And he has been – the Eagles were god-awful at linebacker last year, the year before, basically ever since the Super Bowl year. They've been awful. They signed Zack Baun. They had drafted Nakobe Dean 2 years ago. They fixed their linebacker situation. It's been awesome. But Zack Baun has got 151 tackles. He's got an interception. He's got 5 forced fumbles, second only to TJ Watt. He's got 3.5 sacks. He's got 5 quarterback hits. He's got 11 tackle for losses. You see where I'm going with this? The stat sheet is completely full, and he adds to it every week. I mean, when you think about defensive players of the year, I mean, I think, first of all, you got to think about a defense that's really good. I mean, Trey Hendrickson leads the league in sacks. Great. Myles Garrett, I think, is tied with Trey. Okay. Sometimes we just go to who's got the most sacks. I just think you could look at some different players. Andrew Van Ginkel's got 2 defensive touchdowns, interceptions for touchdowns. He's got 11 sacks. You go through some guys, but if you're looking at a true defensive player of the year, and you look at what Zach Baun has done on the number 3 ranked defensive football, where he started every single game and he's played over 95% of the snaps, you have to consider Zach Baun. They made the Pro Bowl team, and that's good because sometimes you can get snubbed your first year when you just really make the impact. Sometimes you don't get that award to your second year. But I'm out there casting my vote for Zach Baun for the Defensive Player of the Year. I've watched every Eagles game. He's been the best and most consistent defensive player, and not to snub anybody else. Josh Sweat, Quinyon Mitchell, Jalen Carter. I mean, there's been some really good players on that defense, but Zach Baun's been the best defensive player on a really good defense. I think he's worthy of Defensive Player of the Year. Let's get to some Pro Bowl snubs because it happens every year. I remember sitting as a player for 12 years, when the Pro Bowl voting came out. And this is how it works in the NFL. If you're an offensive player, you vote for the defense. If you're a defensive player, you vote for the offense. Now, I played offensive line. So there I am voting for safeties, which I see. I don't study if I'm an offensive lineman. I mean, I do pay attention to it, believe me. I'm voting for the corners. Certainly the edge rushers, the defensive tackles, inside linebackers, guys I come in contact with every play. But I've sat there in the voting when players said, I vote for so-and-so. And you're like, why? Why are you voting for him? I think he's good. Like, players don't study this stuff. They might do it a little bit more now because stats are kind of ubiquitous. They're everywhere, right? So, anyways, but that's kind of how it goes. So, I've basically watched every game so far this year. Some more closely and intensely than others, but I turn the game on every week of every team. For Zach Allen from the Denver Broncos not to be a Pro Bowl player is a major snub. The guy's got 39 quarterback hits. I don't even know who has more, to be honest with you. But nothing against Cam Hayward or Justin Madubuike or Stone Cold Jones in Kansas City. But he's got more sacks than all those guys. He's got twice as many quarterback hits as any of those players. And only Cam Hayward has more tackles than Zach Allen. Now, I don't know what else you want to look at. Denver right now currently is 5th in defense in points surrendered. They've been excellent all year. Zach Allen plays like, and they named him Baby JJ. He came in with Arizona Cardinals when JJ Watt was there, and he's physically. He's JJ Watt is JJ, but I mean he was like Baby JJ. They joked about it, and he went to Denver as a free agent. Vance Joseph left Arizona. Said, man, I like the way Zach Allen plays, and in some ways, I'm not comparing him to JJ. That's not fair, but he plays in as many different spots as JJ did. He could play on the edge. He could play on the 3 technique. He could play in a 4-man nickel front, play the defensive tackle position. He kind of plays in a variety of places, but he's a great player, and he got snubbed. He deserves, and so does Zach Sealer. Zach Sealer in Miami's been awesome. I mean, Miami's defense, I'm going to see him again this week. I mean, that defensive front of Calais, Benito Jones, and Zach Sealer is about as hard to run against as any defense in this league. They're very good. Cleveland couldn't piss a drop last week against those guys. Zach Sealer deserves some credit. Laramie Tunsil made the Pro Bowl, and Laramie's been a very good player in this league. Been a very consistent pass setter, good pass blocker. He's not having a Pro Bowl season. I don't know if anybody has more penalties in the NFL than Laramie did this year. A lot of pre-snap penalties. He's been guilty of that throughout his career, but I think he leads the league in penalties. I might be wrong, but he's up there. For Laramie's Tunsil to go, that's name recognition. Okay, he's left tackle. They're premium, but honestly, Ronnie Stanley was a better player this year. Baltimore ran the ball as well as anybody in this business. He started every game. He stayed healthy. Tyler Linderbaum is going, and rightfully so. Him and Creed, 2 best centers in the AFC. But honestly, Ronnie Stanley deserves attention over Laramie Tunsil. And I'm not here to be critical of this, but it's just there's some guys like Big Cat Williams in Seattle. I mean, he deserves a Pro Bowl spot. Like Dexter Lawrence is going, and Dexter had a great season for 12 weeks until he got hurt. But Leonard Williams is going to line up and play 17 games this year. He's been snubbed before when he was with the Giants. He got snubbed. Year he had 11 and a half sacks, but he's got 9 sacks. He's got 28 quarterback hits. Like he's been a dominant player. He's been their best defensive player. And some weeks, when he was playing against the Jets a couple weeks ago, he only ran back a 92-yard interception return for a touchdown, completely turned that game around. Like, the guy's just Big Cat Williams deserves some attention. And then the guy that maybe deserves it most, and it's disturbing, is Kirby Joseph in Detroit. Kirby Joseph has 9 interceptions. He leads the NFL. But since he came into this league 3 years ago, 3 years now, he's got 17 interceptions. The next closest player has, over a 3-year period of time, has 14. But it's more than that. Like you think about all the injuries, starting with Hutch, in Detroit this year. And their lack of pass rush. And they've got a blitz to get pressure. They play a ton of man coverage. He's the free safety. He's got to cover for all this stuff. They're 14-2. All right. They've lost their all their linebackers. Anzalone, Sam, like they lost all their guys, right? Malcolm Rodriguez. He's still standing. Now Brian Branch is going, and Brian Branch is a good player, but Kirby Joseph's been a better safety. And I'm not knocking, Budda Baker. He's had a great year. Great year. Xavier McKinney. He's had a great year in Green Bay. But for Kirby Joseph not to be a part of the Pro Bowl team this year is a massive snub to me. I remember against Green Bay, when they went to Green Bay and won, Brian Branch got hurt in the game. So they moved Kirby to strong safety. And what did he do in the game at strong safety? Literally the first play at strong safety, he picked off Jordan Love and took it to the house for an interception return for a touchdown, changed the whole game. Changed the whole game on Monday night against San Francisco. 2 interceptions in the second half after San Francisco went up and down the field. One of them, look, it was a gift from Brock Purdy. But the other one was a great individual play. Just great eyes, great position, great break on the ball, jumped right in front of the receiver and took it away. It happens every year. I could go through it. You could look at offensive guards. Should Quinn Miners of Denver be in there instead of, Quentin Nelson? I'm the biggest Quentin Nelson fan there is. I could go up and down the list here. Jordan Mailata, he's been the highest rated tackle in pro football. They're the number 1 rushing football team in the league. I know Jordan Mailata missed games, and maybe that's the reason why. And that's fair. I think he missed 3 or 4 starts. Fred Johnson took over. That's fair. I get it. But this happens every year. But Zach Allen, Kirby Joseph, those guys, Zach Sealer, Leonard Williams, those guys deserve to be Pro Bowl players. Anyways, I had to get that off my chest. I don't know. Greg DeCruz said, why didn't Baker get a nod? But you bet Baker Mayfield. Look, it was a talented group in the NFC this year. And Baker threw the 39 touchdowns. They still haven't clinched their division yet. They lost twice to the Falcons. He's thrown, his share of interceptions. Baker will do that, but he's a gunslinger, so he can live with it. But he's an alternate, and maybe somebody doesn't go. But I don't know. You're going to put him in there over Jaden Daniels. You're going to put him in there over, Jared. I don't know. I don't think so. So I don't think he got snubbed. Should Rashawn Slater be in the Pro Bowl? Yeah, he's that good. Joe Alt, Rashawn Slater. It's the 2 best bookend tackles in the business right now are Rashawn and Joe, and Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson. So I don't have any problem with that. Joe Alt, though, he's a really good player. He missed a game. 1 or 2 games. He's been really good and really consistent. They don't run the ball very well. I mean, there's reasons why you can't put both those guys in, but the quarterback has had the best year of his career. He's thrown the fewest interceptions in the league, and Rashawn Slater lines up and plays every week, and nobody can beat him. So that's pretty good. Who else? Well, I mean, I had really went to bat for Trey Smith in Kansas City. He's going to be either the number 1, number 2, or number 3 free agent in all of free agency next year. I don't have any question about that. I mean, there's going to be teams that are going to fight for Trey Smith. He hasn't given up a sack this year. He's a stone-blooded killer. He starts a fight and finishes a fight in practice, in games. He's got a howitzer for a right hand. I mean, Trey Smith deserved to go. Joe Thuney. I mean, they're best they're very good now. Are they better than Landon Dickerson and Mekhi Becton? They're different style of offense, but they're one's AFC, one's NFC. Anyways, that's what's been on my mind here this morning. I want to thank you for joining me here today. We'll be back Monday. All right. It is Black Monday. Coaches are getting fired. The playoffs will be set. We will get through Sunday night matchup of Detroit, Minnesota. We'll have that game completely broken down. It's going to be a lot of fun. So join me Monday as we get ready for the playoff season, and we'll see some of the coaches that are not going to make it into 2025. Thanks for joining me, everybody, and I'll talk to you on Monday.